Hello everyone. In this video, we'll quickly go over what GDPR is and what its principles are with an easy mnemonic to help exam students remember them with ease. We'll also talk about a few additional requirements and then a side note on the privacy shield. This video is mostly intended for CISSP students, but general viewers can also benefit if you're just looking for a quick and dirty overview. So with that said, let's get into it. The General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR, is the European Union's privacy regulation that addresses personal privacy for European Union citizens. Among other things, it decrees privacy as a human right. Requirements from the GDPR can influence and even flow down into security control frameworks such as NIST 800-53. So what are the principles of GDPR? The GDPR principles are as follows. Purpose limitation. This means that the purpose in which information is collected must be limited and specific. It must be collected and used for a specific and legitimate purpose that needs to account for follow-on and downstream analytical, archival, statistical, scientific, or historical research purposes that are in the public interest. An example would be if Google were to collect your phone number when you sign up for an account. They would need to tell you exactly for what purpose they're collecting it, which is typically for two-step verification. If they later want to sell your phone number to a marketing group, they would not be able to under GDPR because that's not why they collected it in the first place. Data minimization. This means that the minimum amount of data that's needed should be collected. If Google were to ask you for a driver's license number, this would violate GDPR. Accuracy. This means exactly what it says, that the data must remain accurate as it's collected and used. Let's give Google a break and use Yahoo as an example. If you were to open a Yahoo account and they bounced your data up against a DOJ or IRS database and made changes to the spelling of your name, that type of thing would violate GDPR. Data must be collected, created, stored, and used in ways that maintain its accuracy. In addition, there must also be a mechanism for people to review the information held on them and make any corrections to it. Storage limitation. This means that data should not be kept any longer than is absolutely necessary. Integrity and confidentiality. This means that data must be kept safe from curious eyes and protected from unauthorized changes. For example, if your information is held by the IRS here in the United States, your information would need to be kept safe from your neighbor who works there and wants to know how much money you made last year. The IRS would also need to protect your information from any changes made by that neighbor, like flagging your account for an audit when the regular course of business wouldn't merit such an activity. GDP Article 5 has the accountability principle, which means that the data controller is responsible for complying with the 6 principles presented here and has to demonstrate compliance. And the last one here is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. This is the last principle mentioned by ISC squared, and I apologize for doing these last two out of order, but you'll know why in just a minute. And rest assured that ISC squared will never test you on the order of these principles. The lawfulness, fairness, and transparency basically means that the data must be collected and used in ways that are legal, fair, and transparent, and also subject to review and audit. Now, if you need to remember these principles, there's a silly little mnemonic that we came up with to help you along the way. Be sure to put this on your memorization sheet, and if you're not sure what a memorization sheet is, check out our other video explaining what it is and how to use one. We also provide a free sample memorization sheet for your convenience. So the mnemonic to remember the principles is public displays of affection sure interest a lot of us. Take the first letter of each word in this phrase and write them down. Each letter is the first letter of each principle. Now we're going to cover 2 additional requirements that ISC squared considers to be important from the GDPR. These are data portability and data localization. Data portability is a GDPR right and basically says that an individual can have their data securely transferred from one service or controller to another, and that controllers need to provide a mechanism for such requests to be made. For example, if the IRS held your information and you needed that information transferred to the taxing service of Portugal, under GDPR, the IRS would have to provide that service and a mechanism for you to request the transfer, or vice versa, from Portugal to the United States. Data localization refers to the requirement that data be processed and stored in the country of the data's origin, or in the country it was collected. GDPR discusses this principle in the context of the conditions that are required before transmitting EU data outside of the EU. So, for example, if the Portuguese taxing agency wanted to transfer information to the IRS here in the United States, the privacy conditions must be met, and the Portuguese government would have to ensure that the recipient country has adequate laws. The last item we'll discuss in this video is the Privacy Shield. The Privacy Shield was an effort here in the United States that aimed to help companies become more GDPR compliant. It was covered previously in the common body of knowledge, but has now been reduced. This used to be a bigger topic, but has subsided in the 2021 common body of knowledge update. So what you need to know is that the Privacy Shield, number one, isn't fully GDPR compliant, as it doesn't block US national security surveillance, and it doesn't block the surrendering of data. This means that companies who claim to be compliant with GDPR under the Privacy Shield would still have to comply with the United States security surveillance and would have to surrender data. And two, the fact that standard contract clauses are better than the Privacy Shield, as standard contract clauses can help companies become more GDPR compliant in the absence of US laws or other nations' laws. Contracts are both legally and financially enforceable, so there is more incentive for US companies and other companies to comply if elements of GDPR are incorporated into the contracts. That's it for this video. I hope you learned something. If so, leave a comment below to let us know. Thanks for watching and have a great day.